The title of this story, Aliens Mocked Earth Soldiers, until one landed in their capital. After Earth's devastating defeat and the mocking rise of the Virellian Empire, humanity was declared extinct, weak, irrelevant, forgotten. Their capital became a monument to that arrogance. But when a single human soldier, Captain Elias Ward, silently infiltrates the heart of the alien civilization, the myth begins to unravel. Through psychological warfare, subtle sabotage, and haunting broadcasts, Elias forces the Virellians to confront a truth they buried long ago. Earth never truly surrendered. With no army behind him and no intention to conquer, Elias becomes a symbol, an echo of resistance that shakes an empire built on lies. This is not a story of revenge. It's a reckoning. The city of Virellian Prime shimmered beneath twin moons, its crystalline towers refracting pale light into spectral colors across the sky. Alien ships drifted silently between glimmering spires, and in the Capitol Plaza, thousands of citizens gathered in celebration. The occasion was the annual Day of Dominion, a pageant of victory and mockery, where their empire retold the story of their conquest over lesser species, including Earth. Holographic projectors flared to life. Towering, distorted human figures appeared in the air, clad in primitive armor, wielding crude ballistic weapons. Children laughed as animations showed these caricatures stumbling over their own grenades, screaming in terror before being nobly vaporized by gleaming alien soldiers. Alien dignitaries applauded. The illusion was perfect, carefully curated for over a century. Earth was a punchline, a forgotten failure from the backwaters of the galaxy. High above the crowd, in a hovering observation dome, Admiral Calvor of the Virellian Ascendancy leaned forward with a bemused expression. Tall and regal, his four translucent arms folded behind his back, his obsidian-black eyes showed no sign of concern, only amusement. "They still eat this nonsense," Calvor muttered as adjutant. "The myths serve their purpose," the aide replied. "Fear is useful, but ridicule, that's more effective." Calvor allowed a tight smile. "Let them laugh. Earth hasn't risen in 100 years. Their last broadcast was a plea for mercy, and we showed them none. The matter is settled." But not everyone agreed. Beneath the council halls, in the vast knowledge spire, Scholar Linvar narrowed his eyes at an ancient data tablet. His elongated fingers trembled as he replayed archival footage, real footage, decrypted from a long classified file. The video flickered, helmet cam recording, raw and visceral. It showed a human soldier crouched behind wreckage, bloodied and silent, as drones buzzed overhead. With surgical precision, he rose and neutralized 3 enemy sentries in 5 seconds. Linvar paused the video, rewound, watched again. They weren't clumsy. They weren't slow. They were terrifying. A sense of unease clawed at the back of his mind. He turned to his assistant. "Have you ever wondered why the final assault on Earth took 2 decades longer than any other campaign? It was resistance, guerrilla tactics, irregular terrain. Propaganda." Linvar snapped. "Those soldiers were more than we ever told the people." He stared at the projection again. One soldier, moving like a shadow, striking without warning, vanishing into darkness. The footage was time-stamped decades ago. And yet, that same day, an elite recon team, sent to inspect a derelict human station near the edge of the Huron Nebula, failed to report in. A single message made it back to the Virellian command net. Corrupted, riddled with static, but one phrase was clear. It moved like a ghost. Just one. The message ended in a scream. At first, the event was dismissed. Malfunction. Pirate attack. But then another listening post went silent. And another. The Virellians blamed local rebellion, systemic failures, or sabotage. Anything but the impossible. In the council chamber, Calvor received the reports with dispassion. "Coincidences," he said. "We've ruled the stars for 2 centuries. Humanity is extinct. We witnessed their end." Still, late at night, alone in his quarters, he would sometimes replay the corrupted message. Over and over. It moved like a ghost, far from Virellian Prime, within a stolen stealth pod drifting toward the capital. Captain Elias Ward opened his eyes. The chamber hissed as the cryostasis field deactivated. Cold mist swirled around the armored figure seated at the pod's core. Scars ran across his jawline, his eyes dull from long sleep, but sharpening rapidly. The weight of silence wrapped around him like a second skin. He moved slowly, methodically. No wasted motion. He checked his gear, synchronized the pod's landing vector, and began playback of the last message from Earth's Resistance Command. Ward, this is your final mission. No backup, no retrieval. You land in the capital, you make them remember. One strike, one symbol. Make them fear us again. He said nothing in reply. Instead, he reached for his weapon, a custom-forged plasma rifle with the initials EW etched into the barrel, and placed it across his lap like a relic. Then he looked at the flickering hologram hovering in front of him, an old video, decades old. A parade on Virellian Prime. Giant alien children laughing at cartoon humans. Ward's lips curled, not into a smile but something colder. They had mocked Earth long enough. He turned off the hologram. Silence returned. Outside, the stars shifted as the stealth pod aligned with the capital's upper orbit. It was time. The last soldier of Earth was coming. The stealth pod broke through the atmosphere like a silent tear in the sky, invisible to the Virellian security grid. Its alloyed surface dispersed heat without flare, its electromagnetic profile flat as background radiation. Captain Elias Ward sat motionless within, his armor sealed tight, his mind locked in calm calculation. On a flickering HUD above his visor, the alien capital loomed, impossibly vast and eerily delicate, a forest of glass and light, concealing a heart of arrogance and rot. He felt no awe, only purpose. As the pod descended, Elias reviewed the infiltration route one last time. The lower city, industrial, unguarded, was the entry point. From there, he would move upward through maintenance shafts, service tunnels, forgotten alleys. His objective was simple. Sow uncertainty. Trigger fear. Make them doubt their victory. He blinked to bring up a file. Brief, clinical, Admiral Kael'vor. Supreme Commander. Strategist. Massacres across 13 colonies. Directly responsible for Earth's final bombardment. Elias stared at the face in the report. A proud, polished warlord with a cold gaze. He memorized every contour, every scar. The pod landed without a sound, embedding itself in the shadows between two loading towers. Virellian Prime's undercity reeked of chemical exhaust and damp circuitry. Luminous spores drifted through the air, feeding on decay. Elias stepped out, rifle in hand, armor blending with the gloom. No patrols, no alarms, just the distant hum of oblivious power grids and a civilization too secure in its own myth. His boots made no sound on the alloy plating. Every movement was a lesson from years of brutal training. He paused at a junction, accessed a maintenance hatch, and slid into the ventilation system like smoke. Upward he climbed, passing through conduits thick with pulsing alien wiring. His neural interface parsed symbols as fast as they appeared, adapting, learning, mapping. Time was not on his side. The longer he lingered, the greater the risk of detection. But he had to make the first move count. At level 12, he located a secondary security node, a low-level data hub responsible for environmental monitoring and logistics routing. Guards were minimal. No one expected a breach this deep inside the capital. Through a crack in the ventilation shaft, Elias watched them. Two Virellians with sleek armor, chatting in melodic tones, weapons slung casually. He dropped between them like thunder from a clear sky. One was silenced before it could react. The other reached for its comm link, but Elias's fist crushed it, and the device, against the wall. Neither fatal, just fear. He planted a message in the system before vanishing into the ducts. A single line of text replaced the usual control display. One soldier is enough. Within the hour, it was spreading through the network. First as a glitch, then as a curiosity, then as a rumor. Security forces dismissed it. A prank, they said, a coding anomaly. But within command circles, the phrase struck a deeper chord. Admiral Kael'vor received the report in the middle of the logistics summit. At first, he waved it away. But when a second node was compromised, this time in the central water purification matrix, he narrowed his eyes. "Tell me this is a coordinated strike," he demanded. "No other intrusions detected. Just that message. No damage. No casualties." "Then why?" Kael'vor hissed. "Does it feel like a threat?" He turned toward the central display, where a live schematic of the city flickered. Somewhere within that sea of lights, a ghost moved undetected, and he had the gall to announce himself. In the Undercity, Elias listened to security chatter. It was escalating. Shifts redeployed, checkpoints doubled, cameras rebooted. Still no ID, no location. He smiled faintly. It wasn't enough to kill anymore. He had done that. Across the moons of Triton, inside the burning jungles of Aegir 9, on Europa's shattered stations. Death faded quickly in the minds of enemies. But fear that lingered. He slipped into an abandoned control station, eyes scanning the room's dusty interfaces. Outdated and used, perfect for concealment. He pulled up the local surveillance feed. Thousands of faces moved through the capital, unaware, unarmed, unprepared. He watched a group of children march behind a mechanical effigy of a human soldier, throwing stones and laughing. A street performer in Virellian armor mocked Earth's surrender. And over it all, Kael'vor's voice played from giant speakers. Calm, dismissive, victorious. Elias recorded it, filed it away. He had never cared for vengeance, not personally. But the universe had allowed a lie to become history. That lie was now a religion. His presence alone was blasphemy. That night, he disabled patrol drone with a thrown shard of glass, left it hanging from a lamppost. Not destroyed, just displayed. More whispers began. Is it human? Why hasn't it attacked? Why leave messages instead of bodies? Paranoia moved faster than facts. By morning, the city's tone had changed. Military formations were no longer ceremonial. Sensors swept the streets like searchlights. And Kael'vor's broadcast grew sharper, angrier, laced with something unfamiliar. Doubt. Elias watched it all from the shadows, listening, waiting. He wasn't finished. The city no longer breathed with confidence. It twitched. In the gleaming plazas and beneath glass domes, citizens walked with quickened steps, glancing over their shoulders. Patrols once assigned to ceremonial guard duty now marched in tight formation, weapons drawn and sensors on high sensitivity. The laughter that had echoed during the Day of Dominion had dulled to a whisper. The phrase, "one soldier's enough," hung in the air like invisible smoke, seeping into every conversation, every news feed, every nervous silence. Admiral Kael'vor stared down at a map of the capital glowing across a floating display. Red markers flare across various sectors. Minor disruptions, sudden surveillance dropouts, tampered guidance systems. No fatalities. No captured footage. Just fear. "This isn't war," he muttered. "It's theater." One of the strategists, a wiry Virellian named Relveth, shifted uneasily beside him. The intruder hasn't killed since the initial incident, but his movements are unpredictable, always ahead of our scans. Kael'vor's gaze didn't waver. He doesn't need to kill. He's rewriting the narrative. He didn't say what truly disturbed him. This was a soldier who understood psychology, who weaponized legend better than any assassin. It wasn't violence that unnerved Kael'vor. It was a silence. Somewhere within the sewers beneath Sector 7, Elias Ward crouched near an exhaust vent, watching. His HUD mapped the building above, a media relay tower. From it, Virellian broadcasts were beamed across the Empire. Kael'vor's latest message had aired minutes ago. Voice calm, but his eyes flicker with agitation. "The coward who hides among our shadows seeks only chaos. He is alone. A relic. He will fail." Elias uploaded a video to the tower's feed buffer. 10 seconds. No narration. No fanfare. The footage showed him stepping through fire, calm, unharmed, while Virellian soldiers fled in every direction. A soundless clip, grainy but unmistakable. One of the soldiers in the frame had a commander's rank. It aired for exactly 12 seconds before being pulled, but the damage was done. Screen captures hit the underground network. A meme born in fear. The reaction was swift and fractal. A maintenance crew refused to report for duty near the tower. Civilian forums speculated about Earth's return, even suggesting other infiltrators. The council issued a statement labeling the footage a hoax, but that only made it viral. In the council archives, scholar Linvar leaned over old battlefield footage once more. He'd seen it. The same gait, the same shoulder tilt as a man in the new clip. It matched an Earth soldier last seen during the siege of Corinth Delta, dated 80 years ago. The timeline shouldn't overlap, but the match was too precise to dismiss. He presented his findings to council. They laughed. "You're chasing ghosts, Linvar," one said. "A human soldier surviving that long? Impossible." "But not unthinkable," Linvar replied, his voice thin and grave. "He doesn't want conquest. He wants memory. He's making you remember." That night, a memorial statue of Kael'vor, 15 meters tall, was found covered in soot, its base carved with 3 words: "We are not extinct." No security feed recorded the act. Drones assigned to the perimeter reported blank time frames. Kael'vor dispatched 4 elite hunters trained in neural warfare and urban pacification. They descended into the zones Elias had passed through, following fragments of sensor readings, chemical residue, and infrared decay trails. They never returned. One comlink, recovered near a shattered drone, played their last broadcast. It's not just stealth, it's anticipation. He moves where we plan to go. Kael'vor slammed his fist against the display table. "He's reading us," he growled. "Every move, every angle, like he's played this game before." In truth, Elias had. Every tactic used against him now had been mirrored by alien forces in the final days of Earth. He had studied their playbook, not as a soldier, but as prey. Now he wielded it against them with ruthless efficiency. He wasn't trying to destroy their empire. He was unraveling its certainty. From the abandoned upper scaffolds of the education tower, Elias watched the panic reach a crescendo. The streets had emptied. The plazas now pulsed with scanner drones. Holograms of Kael'vor played on loop, assuring calm, declaring victory, demanding vigilance. The words sounded hollow. The eyes, hollower. Below, children huddled near their parents. Schools had closed. Talk of evacuations had begun. A teacher whispered to her students. They said humans weren't real, that they couldn't touch us. One child replied, "They said they were weak." Another asked, "Then why is one stronger than all of us?" Elias listened, silent. The mission directive remained unchanged. No direct assassination, no mass destruction, just a whisper, a reckoning, a message. You mocked Earth. Now you remember it. He uploaded his final broadcast to a dormant frequency, one that still reached the high spires of the alien capital's upper districts. This time, his voice filled the transmission. "I am not the last soldier. I am the first memory." Kael'vor watched it unfold in silence. No orders, no reaction, just stillness. Outside, the wind howled between towers built on pride. Inside, the Empire exhaled its first breath of fear. The storm broke just after midnight. Wind howled between the towers of Virellian Prime, but it was not the weather that unsettled the city. It was the silence. Screens flickered across every district. Offline. Communication nodes pulsed erratically. Drones hovered without instruction, and security channels echoed with dead static. Something was coming, and the city held its breath. Admiral Kael'vor stood in the High Citadel's war chamber, ringed by his most trusted commanders. He hadn't slept, not since the final message. "I am not the last soldier. I am the first memory." The phrase gnawed at him more than any strategic loss. Fear he could combat. But memory had a way of unraveling even empires. "We still have the advantage," said Relveth, his voice strained. "Thousands of soldiers. Orbital defense platforms. If we lock the central gates." Kael'vor raised a hand. His eyes, shadowed with exhaustion, burned with something colder than fear. "It's not about gates anymore. He's already inside. Not just the city, but our people's minds. They speak of Earth like it never fell." A siren blared in the distance. Brief, broken, then cut off. Power flickered in the chamber. Far below the citadel, Elias Ward moved like a shadow through maintenance corridors lined with pulsating alien architecture. The air smelled of plasma coolant and ozone. Each step brought him closer to the center, not just of the capital, but of their lie. He passed through a corridor lined with portraits, Virellian warlords, scientists, cultural icons, all bathed in sanctified light. At the end stood a towering mural, the final victory over Earth. It depicted human soldiers kneeling, arms raised, faces contorted in defeat. Elias stared at it, silent. He reached into a pouch on his belt and pulled a metal disc, scorched, scarred, ancient, a recording device from the Corinth Delta battlefield. He activated it. It projected a single scene, humans fighting, falling, then rising again, not surrendering, never surrendering. The mural flickered and dissolved. Overwhelmed by truth, he left the device running and stepped through the final hatch. Inside the Citadel chamber, screens flared without warning. All of them. Every monitor, every wall. The same footage, humans fighting to the end. Screams, battle cries, tactical brilliance, losses and defiance in equal measure. The lie cracked wide open. Then came the real footage, undistorted, unedited. The last stand of Earth. Soldiers launching desperate counterattacks. Commanders sacrificing themselves to shield civilians. Engineers turning broken hulls into weapons. Children carrying messages through fire. The silence in the Citadel grew thick. Kael'vor staggered back from the console. Cut the feed. "We can't," Relveth whispered. "He's inside the core." A door hissed open behind them. Footsteps. Every soldier turned. Elias Ward entered with deliberate calm. Not sprinting, not shouting, just walking. His armor gleamed with the soot of a dozen breached sectors. His rifle hung at his side, untouched. His eyes, human eyes, burned with something none of them had seen before. Not vengeance. Resolve. Kael'vor stepped forward. "What is this? A final act? You made your statement. You've been heard. What do you want now?" Elias didn't answer immediately. He looked around the chamber, once a place of power, now dim and flickering under the weight of unveiled truth. Then he spoke. "I want you to remember." Relveth drew a sidearm. "You'll die here." Elias met his gaze. "I was ready to die 80 years ago." A pause. Kael'vor raised a trembling hand to stop his officer. "No, he's already won." The chamber stood frozen in time. No gunfire, no explosions, just a hum of the broadcast still echoing across the Empire, rewriting history in real time. Elias turned away. He didn't need to kill the Admiral. He didn't need to die either. What mattered had already happened. He had pierced the veil, exposed a lie. For every citizen who had laughed at the parodies, there would now be doubt, questions, and one truth that couldn't be erased. Earth resisted longer than any other species, and one of its soldiers had walked into the heart of the conquerors and made them tremble. As he reached the outer corridor, he activated his final transmission. "To those who hear this, I'm not the end of Earth. I'm the beginning of what comes next." Outside, dawn broke over Virellian Prime for the first time in centuries without celebration. Only silence and remembrance. The next video titled, "They attacked Earth first, then met the last human weapon."